You are now listening to the Here for the Truth podcast, hosted by Joel Rafidi and Yerasimos.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Here for the Truth podcast. I'm Joel Rafidi. I've got my co-host Yerasimos in the house with me as always. Today, we have the amazing Ty Fischer in the house. His Instagram videos have gone viral. He's a comedian from NYC, and this is just a great conversation, getting to know the man a little bit deeper. Before we bring on Ty, it may be sold out by the time you're hearing this. I'm not sure. There's currently 4 spots left, but applications for the meantime are still open to Rise Above the Herd Round 5, our 8-week group coaching program for truth seekers to step deeper into purpose, power, potential, and walk their authentic path. So head to riseabovetheherd.co. And if applications are still open by the time you're listening to this, please submit one, and we'd love to hear from you and hopefully get you in the program. Nothing more on this front. So much love for the support, guys. Here's Ty. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Here for the Truth podcast. We truly have an incredible guest with us today. We've got Tyler Fischer in the house. Tyler's an actor, stand-up comedian, and viral content creator based in NYC. He's performed stand-up on America's Got Talent, been a guest star on NBC's Chicago Med, TV Land's Younger, and Startup on Netflix. Tyler's known for his viral content with over 200 million views on his prank, sketch, and celebrity impression videos. He was named the best new impressionist by the New York Times and NY's funniest comedian at the NY Comedy Festival. He's been on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and is co-starring alongside Gina Carano in the new movie Terror on the Prairie on the Daily Wire. Tyler is a regular at the Comedy Cellar and is currently touring his stand-up comedy around the country. Tyler, such a pleasure to have you, man. Thanks for being here for the truth.
Thanks for having me. I want to take a couple of those credits off. I'm not.
I was wondering about that.
I was on some of those shows when they were funny, so
yeah,
I won't mention which ones I'm talking about.
I think our audience could probably guess.
Yeah. That's back when it was an honorable credit.
How times have changed, huh?
They've changed. Oh, yes. Yeah. But yeah, I told you guys off camera, but everyone, we're doing this safe. We're all safe. So
yeah.
Got my daily boost this morning, 9 a day.
I'm happy that you did it for us.
Yeah, I do it for, well, it's not for you. It's for old people. It's for the old people that are on life support already in the nursing homes. We want to protect them.
You're such a good human, man.
Yeah, you are. For those that aren't watching the visual component of the show, Tyler's wearing a t-shirt that says boosted with about 17 Band-Aids on it.
They actually, I wanted them on the sleeves in the back, and they're like, it's going to be too expensive. So
yeah, fuck that.
Nice.
Yeah. Dude, one way which we really like to get started, particularly with new guests, is I want to dive into your own personal hero's journey and your major rites of passage a little bit.
That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to let you know I'm a hero. Take care.
We're going to try to get through this interview without laughing the entire time.
All right.
That's still going to happen. Dude, how did you get into comedy? Like, what led you down this path? Like,
I was just a real piece of shit kid. Not raised properly in the 90s. And that was the only thing that got me attention from anybody, including my parents. So I would get rewarded for being a piece of shit through laughs. So I started to notice, my parents are telling their friends about, I just flooded my school, all the time. I would stuff paper towels in the bathrooms and flood the bathrooms like every day, and I would get suspended. And my dad would be telling his friends, but almost he had some pride about it. So I was like, oh, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. So I just started doing pranks in school, and I'd get there early and I'd put the rug up. We had like 20 doors, and I would put the lip of the rug up, and I would sit and just watch people walk in and just fall on their face. And I mean, like, that's all I did from age 7 to, until I went to college. And so I just landed in like an improv class in high school. I was probably going to fail out of high school, and I needed an A. And I kid you not, I used to drink and do drugs with the acting teacher. And so I thought, oh, I'll take his class. He's got to give me an A because I could probably ruin his life. And so that's exactly how it happened. And then I got on stage and he's like, holy shit, you're really funny. You should do this for a living. And that was it. So I was 17 or 18 at the time. That was 18, 19 years ago.
Wow.
Now I get paid for it.
Yeah. When did like the shift happen for you though? Like in terms of, obviously the world shifted in the last 3 years. Like what was comedy like before that for you? Like were you always kind of like speaking out on things that were happening in the world in maybe more controversial ways? Or did you kind of see the line in the sand and you went like, listen, I'm just going to keep like, I'm going to live my truth. I'm going to speak out and see what happens. Because it feels like you've blown up over the last few years, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, first, I don't know what shift you're talking about besides people covering their faces and cutting their kids' penises off. So I really don't know what you're speaking about there. But yeah, no, I was. You hear the siren?
I'm deaf in one ear, bro. I don't hear shit.
Yeah, you can't talk about this stuff in New York. Yeah, I was raised. I see politics almost like religion. I was just raised very liberal. CNN was on TV almost like it replaced religion. So that was the gospel I heard every day. All left-wing media. Fox News was evil, racist. I remember George Bush was elected. It's like he's an evil Southern racist, and so that's just how I was raised. And so I didn't even know I was a social justice warrior. I was putting everybody, all the oppressed people before me, and wasn't taking care of myself, wasn't looking out for myself. And then it really was a combination of the woke identity politics in Hollywood. My career was really taking off. I was in high demand from a lot of major talent agencies and managers, and then suddenly the auditions slowed down, then they stopped. And then I said, what's going on? Some of them were just sugarcoating it, saying, oh, it's just not a good time, or it's slow this time of year, or, your type is not really in demand. And then it got so out of control that these agents and managers and casting directors, they started saying it out loud, just saying, yeah, we're not taking white people anymore.
Yeah.
Comedy clubs going, yeah, we're done with white people, or we're not going to see any more white people. And this kind of little quiet murmur was building in the industry amongst white people. So it's like, oh, great. Now we have a bunch of white people having meetings again, which we know where that leads. So I just thought, like, this, how is nobody like actually speaking up? It was all whisper. It was all behind the scenes. So I, I lost.
What was the timeline? What was the timeline around like this, like the whisper?
I started stand up 13 years ago. So it's been honestly a slow build. Every year it was a little more. And then, probably the first like Black Lives Matter movement, there was a spike, and then it slowed down. And then the George Floyd thing just set it into overdrive, where friends of mine, comedians, were saying, I have to now uninvite you from my podcast because we just can't allow a white man to be on our show. And I mean, like, that happened many, many times. And it was just, yeah. So that kind of was like, well, what the fuck? What am I working so hard for? This is not, I'm just not gonna get to that level. I've been kind of, I call it pre-canceled. My career was like not quite taking off yet. So that combined with the COVID stuff, my personal choice to not get the vaccine. I don't give a shit what anyone else does. I became a fascist, racist, transphobe, I hate vegan hater, like all the names, amongst the stand-up comedy scene. And I was like, all right, gloves are off now. I have nothing to lose. So I wasn't allowed to perform. I wasn't allowed to audition. I wasn't allowed on podcasts because of my skin color. So it's like, it wasn't a decision. It was like, I'm backed in a corner.
Mm.
I've already committed my life to this, so let's just say anything now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started, and it was pretty brutal for a few years. But then once I got through the thick of it, and then my following, grew larger than the hate I was getting. It's been pretty fun since then. So I've had about a year of that where where it hasn't been that painful to at least get through the crappy part of it.
Yeah, man, it's challenging enough to be an artist, an actor, etc. But then again, to have to go through this, where you're being canceled and then not being invited onto the shows because of the color of your skin. How tolerant and inclusive, by the most tolerant and inclusive group of people and party. It's really interesting. But I hear you, man. I have a really good friend of mine who was in the LA jazz scene, and he was on a WhatsApp thread with like 60 people. And like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, he made a comment just questioning the mask wearing, and every single one of them turned against him. People he worked with for 20 years, like best friends of his, stopped calling him. Like he got completely exiled from the community.
It replaced religion in a new way that I don't think we've seen yet, and that combined with the woke identity stuff, it's as powerful as any religion. With the exiling and shaming and everything. And but the good thing is, like, if you're creative, they're all giving me loads of material, so it almost became fun. Like every day I was just taking it, turning it into something, putting it out. And I'm not giving up my career, so I was just like, all right, I guess it's going to happen a different way. And now I have mostly full control over it, so that's the upside. Besides walking down the street and, people I used to know scoffing at me and calling me a fascist and a Nazi, when I'm on a first date, that's confusing. But
have there been any people in your world that like were saying these things and kind of exiled you or excommunicated you that have kind of like reached back out in a certain way and tried to extend an olive branch? Or has it just been like, nah, fuck it?
Yeah, less of an olive branch, more of a like, oh, hey, can you help me with my YouTube page?
Ah, gotcha.
I see that your YouTube page is doing well. Can you help me with mine? I'm going, where were you when, the entire comedy community, which is the stupidest word that we use now, was calling me the worst possible things that you can call somebody. So I just see it as I'm flattered. Okay.
Yeah.
You're acknowledging I have some success. I'm not going to help you, but I don't want to add any drama. So I just kind of smile and nod, and I'm back. What's funny is I'm back in the stand-up scene. I got passed at the Comedy Cellar 3 months ago on a fluke. A fan of mine texted my videos to the owner. So I had definitely given up on that dream of performing at the Comedy Cellar because the vaccine mandates and a lot of comics hated me there. So I just thought, well, there's no way they're going to have me. But thank God the owner really, really appreciates alternative points of view. And at the end of the day, it's people from around the world and the country that come to that club. So there was a demand for people that were willing to make fun of this stuff.
Yeah, and it's still like I still think because of the news, because of the mainstream media, they control the narrative, but there's so many people that aren't about this, that don't align with it. And so when you stand in your truth, like so much respect, first of all, man, for keep doing what you're doing and speaking your truth, because when you do that, I just feel like there's an alignment that happens and people find you, people support you. I mean, your material on Instagram, it was going insane. I remember when it was coming across like my page, and I think even in 2020, and I was like, who is this dude? This dude's fucking hilarious.
And they shut me down like that. They shut my account when I hit I was going up like 1,000 or 2,000 a day. And when I hit 80,000, they just they turned the tap off. So, but even in that shadow banned state, I was still able to to break through. I mean, my name, I wasn't searchable. So like even my own fans were like, I have to go find you on someone else's page and click on it. But when I'd get a video out, it would still sometimes get into the millions of views. So I think hopefully the tide is turning now on social media where they're like, all right, we've got all these alternative platforms. We've got Rumble. We've got, my guess is they're going to loosen up a little bit because so many people are leaving and going to these other platforms.
Yeah. Hey, what do you make of that Woody Harrelson monologue on SNL? Like that was kind of left field for SNL, right?
No, I mean, if you've got a big star, if they say this is what I want to do, they're probably gonna let them do it. If you watch Dave Chappelle's monologues or Louis C.K. talking about, pedophilia, in the like the the corner of the pedophile, it's a hilarious joke. So my guess is he just said, this is what I want to do. And 3 years has passed. So you would think it would be time to make a joke about it, which, as we know, it's not really even a joke. It's a funny spin on it. But, if he wasn't a Republican, he is now. So they just create Republicans and conservatives. They're just pumping them out.
Yeah. Who have been, oh, Joel, did you want to ask something?
No, you go.
I was gonna say, who are some of your influences, man? I mean, I love comedy my whole life growing up. I'm 42 years old, man. I loved watching Carlin. I've watched some of the other comedians growing. Like, who have been your influences, man, that have inspired you?
Yeah, I love Carlin. I just watched the documentary, Judd Apatow's documentary about him, which unfortunately the whole ending was a woke virtue signal.
Yeah,
piece of shit that I thought ruined the whole movie. But it was just a montage of like BLM protests and stuff. I was like, this has nothing to do with him, and you don't know what side he'd be on. But I love Carlin, and comedians should study the history because Carlin went to jail for swearing during his act. So you kind of just have a duty that whatever era you're born in, it's like, all right, well, this is the shit I have to go through. I have to get shadow banned and fight through it. And there's always going to be something, but comedians in England are going to jail now. That's for sure. That's becoming more prevalent to go to jail for a tweet or a video or something. But, Carlin fought and even went to court to figure out, well, what are the words you can't say? So it's the repetition of history is like spot on, because that's what just happened over the last couple of years. Like you'd get shadow banned. Well, what'd you say? Did you mention masks? Okay, well, you probably can't do that. And I'm like, it can't be that wishy-washy. And so we just went through that exact same thing. We just had thousands, if not millions of people were sacrificed their social media for saying some word or talking about some topic you so-called can't talk about. And everybody just went along with it, which is really sad in a free country. But he figured out it was, well, shit, piss, cunt, fuck, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. And that was the 7 words you couldn't say. But I thought if he was born today, that joke would be different. He'd be like, well, here are the 7,000 topics you can't talk about. There would be 7,000 topics and each of them would have 700 words. So I think we've gone backwards since the 70s.
Yeah.
It's so wild, man. Like, it just blows my mind. It just blows my mind what's happening.
Well, it's crazy that we're actually here, but I mean, the reality is what it is. And I think it's forcing people to, to step into true creative independence without having to be, I guess, reliant on the consensus. Because what I'm assuming is there now sections of the industry that's said, fuck that, and there's new pathways opening up for alternative acts and people with alternative views like yourselves? Like, is that kind of ramping up?
Yeah, Rumble is a YouTube alternative, and that's growing, and they don't censor you. I mean, you can't take part in hate speech. There's hate speech laws that you can't do, but they're not censoring. Locals which is like a Patreon alternative, which I'm going to be switching to probably in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Daily Wire, Daily Wire found me on Instagram and sent me a DM, and I got an audition and booked a huge role in their one of their first films with Gina Carano. And they're doing merit-based casting. They're not casting based on skin color or race, unless it's applicable for the role. Obviously, Ray Charles, you wouldn't want Michael Douglas to play Ray Charles, but so that would be an interesting film. So the Daily Wire, their first 4 movies, they had a female lead. They had a female hero lead, and they didn't do that on purpose. Those were the 4 best scripts that they found. And so Daily Wire's doing tons of great stuff. They're doing children's programming now to have an alternative to Disney, and they're growing. I think they have 1 million plus subscribers, and Netflix has 200 million. But
you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, if they get to 10 million, and there's another one, and I could see this really leveling the playing field. But I think what's actually going to happen is it's going to force Netflix and these other places to really loosen up, and they're going to start producing the content that Daily Wire is. That's my guess.
Gotcha.
Maybe. Yeah.
Now, the direct-to-consumer, I guess, market, I remember Louis C.K. kind of in some ways cut out the middle person, and he just started releasing stuff on his own website, and people were paying that. Is that also an option? Like, do you take part in that at all, or you can post something on a website and people can just buy one of your comedy shows?
Yeah, I have a Patreon page where I'll put up full stand-up sets, or sets that have gone wrong, or kind of improvised pieces and stuff, which I'll be switching to locals because it's a little bit more of a
freedom-oriented
interaction. Yeah. But yeah, I did a comedy special that I just put out for free on YouTube, and then I just put my Venmo and my PayPal. So, I made a decent amount of money on that. It's got upwards of 300,000 views, and the clips that I've put out have gotten a few million. So there's ways to do it for sure.
Yeah. When did you get into impressions? Because your impressions are like next level, dude.
I don't know. I think that led back to childhood, just making a joke of everything, making fun of my teachers and doing impressions of them. I'd put their clothes on. They had like a change of clothes. They went to the bathroom. I'd put on their clothes, and dress in drag. I remember I put on my Latin teacher's like gym clothes and her high heels, and she came back and I was teaching the class, and she was not happy about that. But
you just made me think of my Spanish junior high teacher. She was gorgeous. She was hot. Anyways, just made me think she wore this turtleneck.
Yeah, this woman was hot, actually. Yeah, wow. I just saw a woman that looks like her 10 minutes ago in the park, and I didn't realize that she looked like my Latin teacher, who I still am attracted to.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to your future.
Probably pretty old and ugly at this point, but
oh well, you still have your memories.
Yeah. Well, women, men and women peak at different times. Men peak in their 30s and women peak in their 18s.
You've still got about 15 years to peak then, right?
Sorry?
Yeah.
You've still got about 15 years to peak then, right?
Yeah. You're 19 based on your last special that I saw.
Yeah. New York really rips on your physical state. And then I played George Bush in a play in college. So there was really no role for me. And then I was like, they used to let you just audition for whatever role you saw fit in college. So it was a play called Stuff Happens, and it was mostly just quotes from George Bush and his administration that led to the Iraq War. It's a wild, because it's all real. So I just kind of went in the mirror and just start talking like this, strategery. And then you kind of mix words together. It's fantastic and wonderful. It's wondertastical. and I started getting a lot of laughs. And so I played this massive role of George Bush when I was 20 years old in college. And, and then people were like, stop doing George Bush. He's
Evil.
he's not topical anymore. But like, what I did realize is everything that everyone has told me to stop doing, whenever I did the opposite, every dream has come true.
Yeah.
And that's like across the board. And so it's pretty remarkable how people will try to keep you from exploring. It's
the crabs in the bucket, man. The crowd is always wrong. The consensus is usually wrong. You know, when you're trying to get out of the bucket and do your own thing and live your truth and honor who you are as an individual, most people, man, who don't have that level of sovereignty or bravery or courage to be who they are, they want to just bring you down. They want to keep you in the safe zone, man. It happens all the time.
Yeah. I will say, if you're going to go for it artistically and you want to explore, you're going to have to let go of a lot of people in your life.
Oh, of course.
It doesn't mean like you're right. It's not like anything I'm doing I think is right or wrong, but it's like, hey, I want to play in the sandbox a little bit. You're going to get messy. You're going to offend people. You're going to offend yourself. I think that's what people don't realize is when you fuck up and you cross the line, the artist pays a price for that. So, yeah.
But you have to have the freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to stop talking to my mom. That's going to be, if you want to make it as an artist, you should definitely stop answering her phone calls and tell your grandma to go fuck herself because she's going to try to hold you back.
Hey, man, who do you think has a greater grasp of the English language, George Bush or Joe Biden?
George Bush. Yeah.
Maybe just.
At least George Bush is taking two words and combining them as one, and it makes a new word. Joe Biden will quote, Martin Luther King and be like, this is one of my favorite quotes of him. He said, we're not bad jobs. Come on, not a joke. I'm not joking around. So.
Do you have a favorite person you like impersonating, or is it just depending on like what's like inspiring you in the moment based on the material, based on what's happening in the world?
I think I do Biden on stage a lot, and I'll end my speech and get lost in the crowd, and I'll trip over the mic and get caught up in the chord and keep falling down, and I keep adding to that every night. And then I'll contrast his speech with Trump, because Biden will get really loud and then he'll whisper, like, we gotta save this country. I'm not joking around. Verbally. But then Trump would do the opposite. He'd be quiet and be like, we gotta save this country because the radical left, and these people. These people, they're rapists, they're murderers. And so I always do those back to back. I really like Ben Shapiro because you can get 10 times the amount of content in 5 seconds because he talks really at the speed of light and he's just going and going and going and always doing an ad read. I always imagine him like giving a eulogy for his best friend. We love Greg, was a great guy, and it's too bad he was not getting enough sleep, which is really why he crashed his car. But if he used a Helix sleep mattress, he would have been alive today. Use code Ben for 50% off. Let's talk about his legacy. But first.
Oh, man. Dude. So good. Okay. Jordan Peterson, though, man, you're so good with Jordan Peterson.
You said you wouldn't put me on the spot, and it's like, here we are. Carl Jung warned about this. It's malevolent, but you got to clean your room, and you got to stop doing, it's like you got to stop doing methamphetamine. You got to stop doing cocaine off a stripper's ass. It's like, well, maybe you'll get your life together. That's all I'll say about that.
We should have just made this like an audio only podcast and just told everyone we're interviewing Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. We're so grateful to have been able to get show. That's funny, man. So, dude,
I'm a big fan of Jordan's, though.
Yeah, man. I mean, he spits some truth, and he's been saying it for a long time, and
Yeah.
warning about what's happening.
If you haven't listened to him, or you're new to him, I would recommend going back to his college lectures, because he was not famous and he was really just recording them, I think, for the students to be able to go back and watch if they missed a class. And there's just a wealth of information. I mean, he talks about handling everything from, toxic family members, or if you have to end a friendship, or 80% of the success in my life now has been from watching him carefully and implementing the stuff that he's recommended. And none of it has been negative.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'd pay to watch the two of you like in a room together speaking to one another, but you as him speaking to him. That would be it'd be pretty epic.
I'm gonna see if I can arrange that, like his younger self talking to him. Well, the pronouns will never be a problem. It's like, just get over it. It's like, well, oh, you think so, Bucko? You'll be yearning for the time when there was 50 genders. You go, well, I remember the good old days. Yeah, well, okay.
Man, this is too good. What well, I want to kind of go back to a little bit what you said in terms of how you were raised. Like, so when you what's your relationship with your parents or other family members? Like, are their views still the same? And obviously you flipped. Like, is there any connection there?
There was never any real, solid values in my family. We maybe had some unspoken ones, but and this is what I also learned from Jordan Peterson. My parents got divorced when I was 7. It's like a catastrophe in the family. I mean, it's like he said this: if you get divorced and you have kids with somebody, like, you're not divorced, you're not free. You have a malignant cancer the rest of your life. You are tied to that person the rest of your life. I'll give you one example. Somebody I know got married, and then they were the woman had an affair, and then finally she left the country and started a new family. And he had a flight tracker on his phone and tracked her plane, literally going over their house and going to the other country. Like that was the level of celebration that she was leaving the US because of how catastrophic it was. So when my parents split up, and divorce is like sexualized now, it's romanticized in the way that abortion is. It's really disgusting. It should be a last resort, both of those things. So it's like you have two different parents with two different sets of values. Now they don't even have to agree on them, and in fact, they weaponize them. So that fucked me up a lot. I mean, my dad came out of the closet, so that's why they got divorced. He came out as racist. So no, he's gay. I have a gay dad, and so it's just a mess. That's why, like, I didn't really start figuring myself out until I was probably 32 or 33. I think until when I started my podcast, because I was able to just talk for an hour, and kind of get it out. That combined with therapy, I was like, oh, what do I actually think? What are my values? Oh, I actually really value marriage and family, and all of these things that I was taught are toxic and patriarchal, and insert woke trigger word. So there's really no foundation there anyways. But as far as the stuff I'm doing now, there's no line for me. There's no topic off limits. So I talk about my dad coming out of the closet. I talk about how homophobia saved my life, because if my parents got married, any later, he would have come out of the closet and they wouldn't have had kids. So I have to go through this whole scenario of how the homophobic community are, terrible, but they're also heroic to me. So, and I don't really know what people think about any of those jokes, but I don't care because it's part of my healing process. So, but I've lost friends. I mean, I've lost best friends for jokes,
Really?
childhood friends that were going, you know, I don't know what's wrong with you. Now all my friends are texting me going, Tyler lost his mind. What, why won't he just go back to being the silly guy who does a Bill Burr impression every day? It's shocking. Yeah, people will reach out and say, hey, you sold your soul to the devil, or, you're going to hell. Go back to your old self. And so, yeah, I can't underestimate how much you're going to have to prepare for that, if you really go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But you'll make again, like you say, you'll find your new people. People that it's pretty ironic. I mean, one of the friends I lost is, he came out of the closet probably in his 20s. My dad came out, my brother came out. Like that's like someone telling me, they just got a raise at their job. I go, oh, cool, congrats. What are we doing for dinner? So I've fully supported all of these oppressed people. And then suddenly I just want to tell jokes about everything. And I'm this evil fascist. And they tell me to go to hell and that I'm just doing it for money and all this stuff. And so it's been really revealing to see, and I'll say one more thing about Jordan Peterson. He points out that you don't know what too far is on the left. And I think this kind of sums up what we're going through right now. Everything's masked in compassion. Like, oh, how much? Okay, now how many genders? Now kids can do whatever they want. And now we're like in this crazy clown world because nobody's willing to say that the left goes too far. We know when the right goes too far. But that seems to be what's happening.
Yeah, well, we're losing objectivity altogether.
Yeah. So, some of us are. Some of us. I also want to be careful because I always go, I try not even to say the left or whatever, because most people, their politics is not their main identity, nor should it be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we're getting kind of caught up, not us here, but we're getting caught up in that a little bit.
But the thing is, like, there's still sensible liberals as well, which I'm sure don't identify and don't relate to all the super woke shit that's going on.
Yeah, Bill Maher's a great example, and I'm probably more similar to Bill Maher than I am. I'm a conservative. I think my views are still pretty classically liberal, and some of my views are conservative. So, yeah.
Even having to like just throw things in boxes. Like I was raised in New Jersey. I lived in New York City for 10 years. I've been in LA.
So you're racist.
Exactly. And I was in the acting community for a bit in New York City. And like you said earlier, it's like, oh, CNN, everyone on the right is, evil. It wasn't until I just started educating myself and listening to different thinkers and researching that it's not even, it goes beyond left and right. Like I just care about the truth. I care about things that make sense and are rational, because it's interesting now that it seems that like freedom, which is become this demonized word, seems to be more aligned with the right now. I feel like things shift and change in some ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is kind of strange when you think about it.
Well, they've weaponized the extreme left has weaponized the word freedom to mean, free to be racist or free to not want black people to be able to, go to a restaurant or whatever it is. So, what I find when I do stand up in a comedy club, it's a great sample of the world, actually, because every night, Friday night I do 4 shows, Saturday night I do 4 shows, I do 20 shows a week. So that's thousands and thousands of people a week, random samples of people from around the country and the world of every political part of the spectrum. And most of them are coming together and laughing on everything. Last week I went up, it was Judd Apatow went on stage, then Chris Rock, then me, then a very liberal, far left, woke black lesbian, and they laughed at everything.
Yeah.
So that, to me, I'm like, that's the real country as a whole, I think.
Yeah. Do you think like people go to comedy shows to get like a reprieve from, the whole left right paradigm? Or do you think like they just walk straight back out and they're straight back into their, the little box that controls them and they can't laugh at anything?
It's probably a variety. Some people might go, well, this is a club in New York City. They're going to be aligned with my, identity politics, and they're going to make fun of straight white men. And some do, some comedians say horribly racist things about white people. And I know when it's a joke and when it's not. I mean, some comics will go up and say, white women should have their uteruses ripped out. I mean, stuff that's so shocking that I sometimes have to leave the room. I'm a free speech absolutist, so I think they should be able to say it, which is great, because then I can go on stage and do what I'm going to do. So
Yeah.
it actually hit me today when I was walking that a lot of people say, "Why are you still here? Why, like, you would kill if you just lived in Nashville or Florida." But I have to get my ideas to work for everybody at these shows. But I realized it's becoming almost more of a debate, because you've got 5 different comics with 5 different points of view.
Mm.
And I'm getting more comfortable now to go up right after somebody, and kind of counter their idea. Or if they're talking about, yeah, I'm a gay Latinx, gender fluid, this, and this is who I am, I'll go up and then I'll pretend to be, an immigrant who just got their green card, who's, has one leg, and I'll convince the crowd that's who I am. But I'll do it to prove that, like, you could always be more oppressed and you can always get more support. So I'm really having fun, not being offended by hearing this stuff, but then going, I can go up and counter it and try to make my point of view funny.
Yeah.
How much of your shows are improv?
It's always in blackface. It's always in blackface. It's not always improvised.
Right. How's your Trudeau impression?
It's so good, man. It's so good. I go on stage, I get in my blackface, and then I put a mask on everybody and tie it, and then I just start vaccinating people. We do a white shaming ceremony. I'll find a black guy in the crowd and let him punch me in the dick. It's really good.
How much of your shows are improv versus material that you've prepared?
It'll depend. I mean, at the Comedy Cellar, I got 15 minutes, right? I got 15 minutes, and it's very cutthroat there, and the owner's watching you, and the waitresses and waiters are reporting back on how you did. So you got to bring it. You can still take risks. The other night I said, God, it's kind of it's a tough time for white guys, because we can't really say much because people claim we've been oppressing, so we don't have a voice, and I've got to come to a basement where your cell phones are locked up, so I'm kind of afraid to say things. And this woman's like, "You should be." She started yelling at me. And so it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go talk to this woman now and let her humiliate herself, and she did. So you can kind of go off the path a little bit, and then when I do shows for my fans, those shows are an hour or 75 minutes. So I'm there. People want to, have a good time. It feels more like a safe space. And so I can do 10, 20, 30 minutes of improv throughout the show, which is really fun.
Cool. Yeah, I bet.
Do you think it's going to get played out, the whole, hating on white people jokes? Like, surely people are going to get over that sooner rather than later, you'd think.
This is kind of extreme, but my early prediction was we would lead to slavery reenactment camps, where you go and you have to be a slave for a week. And that actually is still where I think it's going. Because there actually has been things similar to that, and there's certainly like group humiliation stuff within corporations, and Robin DiAngelo teaching people how to be less white. the train has left the station. I'm trying to figure out if it's picked up too much speed to slow down or not. I actually don't know. The damage is done. An entire generation of kids has been raised on this. So they're going to go out and bring that into the world. And I'm kind of like sick of talking about it, but I can't stop because I feel so bad for kids that are raised now, not just white kids, everybody, because I've seen it play out because it started 15 years ago. So now I'm now in the arena of actors and comedians, some of which who are punished for being white and they don't have a career. And I'm talking guys that should be Bill Burr level famous that I see at the Comedy Cellar who don't have an agent, that they're getting $50 a night, and they are Robin Williams status funny. And I'm talking about myself here, but no, it's really sad. And then you'll see comedians who were taken and placed ahead way early on in their career. And they're suffering because they were exposed too early because the industry is brutal. It's absolutely brutal. So everybody loses in this. I don't know. I have a lawsuit pending right now for a acting manager who told me they will not work with me because I'm white. They scouted me. We want to work with you. We're going to, you're going to be a star. The whole pitch I've gotten for the last 10 years. And then when it came time to sign with them, or what I thought was going to be signing a contract, they said, look, we got word from, higher up that we can't take white men anymore. And so I'm sitting here on my podcast stuff and I recorded it. I didn't plan on recording it, but this had happened 5-10 times already. So anyways, he told me it was company policy to no longer hire white men to represent white men. And so I'm taking them to the Supreme Court. This could be a several year battle that could take away from a lot of my my work and my focus, but it feels like a duty to myself first and foremost to stand up for myself. But if you want evidence on how bad and how out of control this has gotten, when I published that on Twitter that I was suing them and that I wanted this anti-white racism to stop, I was absolutely brutalized. I was the racist for standing up for this. Oh, poor white guy, go kill yourself. I mean, maybe 3 comedians stood up for me, and I didn't need them to stand up for me, but the amount that threw me under the bus for that and are shocked, and every single night I have to walk into the Comedy Cellar and someone will go, why are you doing that? Just stop it. Drop the lawsuit. Are you insane? So that's like my walk into work every night is something along those lines. And that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I'll die on the hill if I have to.
Yeah. It's like, I don't understand. Cause like, aren't comedians meant to be like more open-minded than others in that sense?
No, they're not. I think it gets confused because there's this isolated hour of material that you see, but they've spent years crafting that. So that's not our natural, or I'm kind of like that all the time a little bit, but that's not the natural thought process. That's a very curated, very scripted, very safe piece of material because it's been tested and filtered through thousands and thousands of crowds.
Yeah.
So you're right to suspect that. That's what I thought, but the pandemic has been so revealing, and a lot of people I used to look up to, it's kind of nice because I see them around and I'm not intimidated. I don't care about performing before or after them.
Yeah.
I mean, even Chris Rock, who I love, but he was on stage just saying like horrible things about white people. And I'm going like, and I walked out, I was like, I just don't want to see this. And He slapped me in the face.
I'm not going to make that joke.
Comedians are very deprived of a lot of things. Probably they've been traumatized as a kid. That's how a lot of them get into it. So it's a group of people that generally will do anything for attention or love. So if you're told, get the fucking vaccine and shut up if you want to get on stage, 99% of them did it. And the 1% that didn't got brutalized. And so we were made an example of. So, however, again, if you can break out of that 99%, you've got this vast open field to play around in where there's no competition.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not only no competition, but the people in that space, we all talk and support each other because we're not threatened. I talk to Ryan. I love Ryan Long. We perform all the time. JP Sears, all these guys, we help each other out. Hey, here's my agent. Hey, here's this merchandise vendor you should use. So it pays off in huge ways.
Yeah, man. I just think that, again, our podcast is called Here for the Truth. Beyond what's going on in the world, just inner truth, being who you are, living that. And then I just think benefits happen, even though there may be bumps in the road, even though there may be obstacles. Like you said, there's this open field. And when there's no incongruence between who you are and what you do and how you live, there's a freedom there.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Not having to fake reality for anyone, right? To me, that's what real liberation is.
Yeah. And like, it's weird. Truth actually is almost at the bottom of the totem pole for me now. It's free speech has now become at the top, because with comedy in particular, none of it has to be true. You have to go up and entertain people. So most things aren't funny. Most things that happen to you aren't funny. You have to change the ending. You have to add a character. You have to, Louis C.K. has a great joke about flying in an airplane and the Wi-Fi is a little slow. And he's like, can you believe this shit? And he then changed that story to make it about a guy sitting next to him. But he openly says, no, that was me who threw a fit that my Wi-Fi was delayed by 5 seconds because I'm living in a Greek myth. I'm flying in the air. So there's, and this is more just advice for new comedians. None of it has to be true. Yeah. Not a single word of it has to be true. It has to be funny. If you want to dive into the truth during your performance or explore it, or, if you want everything to be true, that's fine. You do whatever you want. But I see some comedians fall into the trap of thinking, oh, it has to be true, or it has to be a statement or whatever. It has to be funny. Because once you get into a place like the Comedy Cellar, they go in and they just listen. Is the crowd dying of laughter or not? If they're not, you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your ultimate dream, man, as a performer, as a comedian, as an actor?
Probably to quit, Be able to quit. No, I mean, my dream's coming true. I mean, first of all, to be able to make a living doing this is awesome. And I didn't, even when I was a young actor and people were going, you should be on SNL, and I was getting scouted. I'm sitting there with Jim Carrey's manager in LA. I was signed by one of his partners as junior managers. Like, I was still running an Airbnb in my house. I was living with 6 strangers and babysitting during the day. And so that fact alone is amazing. But yeah, I think I would like to continue doing what I'm doing, but move into writing and directing and making feature films, because that's a dead zone right now. There's talk about an open field. When's the last awesome comedy you've seen? Like, drop dead funny comedy.
Bro, I talk about this all the time, man. Like, what has happened to comedy in cinema is just not good at all.
Yeah. So I'm probably, look, if Daily Wire won't do it or whatever, and I don't blame anybody for not wanting to take that risk, because it would be a big risk, but I'll probably fundraise and produce it on my own and put it out. Who knows? Maybe put it out for free on YouTube or something. I don't know. it's crazy that market is wide open right now.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite comedies?
Let's see. I think one of my favorites is My Cousin Vinny.
Oh man, Utes. These two Utes.
Two Utes. The
Such a good one.
just the character, the work on the characters in that film is so incredible, and and it's kind of grounded in reality too. I like movies like that are grounded in reality, but the writing is so funny that it's hilarious. Dumb and Dumber is probably my all-time favorite.
What a classic.
Right. So there's work to be done there for sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
I kind of aspire to be Woody, like a Woody Allen type.
Yeah.
I really admire his work, not his film work, but more of his personal life, what he did there. Um,
Oh man, I knew
he,
you were
he
gonna go there.
he was putting out a film a year nearly for 30, 40 years, and he just got somebody to invest in it. They weren't allowed to change the script. He would say, "Here's the movie." It's like, and that's why the movies were so good.
So you just busting out screenplays left and right?
I'm kind of busting out ideas for movies because I would like to get the funding to actually sit down and lock myself in a room for 6 months and write it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But pretty small investment for what could be a potentially huge payoff for any millionaire or billionaire fans who are watching right now.
That's our number one demographic of listeners are millionaires and billionaires.
You
So
never know, man.
you might be in luck.
You never know. You never know who's watching.
That's true, man.
But everything I make is zero budget. So I'm going, guys, like I've probably hit 300 million views on my videos for $0. So give me hell $1 million. I could probably make a couple movies with.
Yeah. And I figure with your audience, man, crowdsourcing, like shit,
Yeah,
man. I'll give you money, bro. You
that
know what I
sounds
mean?
good.
Yeah. And 50 cents, well, that'll go towards $1 million, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start on locals and I'm gonna start my podcast again and just start, building up that fan base. And I won't say community. I can't use that word. I think that's a word that we need to lose as a society as well.
What would you use instead?
Um, well, as far as comedy, it's not a community. I'd say it's a comedy scene.
Gotcha.
Thousands of different people, all whom of which would quite literally put a bullet in someone's head to avoid scrutiny or to get ahead or something. There's no unity there. There's no black community or white community. You can actually say there's a black community and a Latin community, but you actually aren't allowed to say there's a white community, which is hilarious because that's the claim that white people have this tight-knit superiority based community, but then you can't even claim that we have. It's all, anyways, it makes me want to blow my brains out.
Yeah. Don't do that, man.
No.
There's so much laughter, that's left to be had.
Blow my brains out with laughter.
What's your well, Joel, if you want to ask something first, because I wasn't asking about his next tour.
That's right. I was going to say, like, are there any more, I guess, well-known or top-tier comedians that you think have closet alternative views that are just playing the game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Probably 20% of them, I'd say.
Yeah, that was a good question, man. Because I was curious if there's people in your world, in your community, that maybe like privately message you, man, dude, you're brave for saying what you're saying. Like, I'm already in the game. Like, I'm not going to change because I got to pay for my kids' college or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I do have and I have a lot of comedians within my scene that do that as well. And go, I just, so they'll send me ideas that they don't that they're afraid to do, which is kind of great. Now they just send me all these scripts and sketch ideas. I mean, Jamie Foxx slipped into my DMs, which was kind of mind blowing because he's been a childhood hero of mine. Until I thought he was Bill Cosby. I had switched. I'd flipped that. I'd screwed that up. No, that's a Kyle Dunnigan joke. He's he's Barack Obama in one of his shows. Do you know Kyle Dunnigan?
The name sounds familiar for some reason.
Do yourself a favor, and I think he's one of the funniest comedians ever. He does these deep fakes, like really crappy deep fakes. So he'll be Biden or Bill Maher, and he's now creating entire sitcoms that's just him playing, Bill Maher, Caitlyn Jenner, and it's Fresh Prince of Biden or something. It's like a play on Fresh Prince, but Joe Biden's the main character, and Ben Shapiro's his butler. And hey, come sit on my lap. He's like, sir, that's completely inappropriate, and it's just so fucking funny. It's insane. But back to Jamie Foxx, he sent me a voicemail, and was just like, I think you're so funny. I don't know where you are, but you keep it up. He wasn't, he's a huge celebrity, so he didn't specifically say what he was supporting, and that's totally fine. So I actually don't know, but then he started to comment on all of my videos and put 50 laughy face emojis and stuff. So
that's dope.
He's a legend. He's a legend.
He's a legend. I know. So it's like what is going on right now? I've got my peers going on my Instagram and saying you're a Nazi. And then I have Jamie Foxx saying you're brilliant. And I'm like, well, I think I'm gonna take Jamie's feedback here on this one.
Yeah.
And
real recognizes real, man.
And what's kind of cool about that is obviously his comments go to the top. So then on all my videos that used to get hate, you'd have to recognize and scroll past Jamie Foxx to comment. And I think that shut a lot of people up, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, even that, man, the fact that like people go, oh, well, Jamie Foxx thinks this is funny, so then I can't say anything. Like, just like no backbone, no backbone. Conviction, man.
Right. No one really knows what they like. No one really knows what they're
saying, dude. Like, you want to call someone, out.
Injected. Yeah.
Yeah, like you want to call someone out, then keep calling them out. Who cares if fucking Jamie Foxx is liking it? Like, at least stand true to your fucking values, even if they're opposite. These people, they're so flimsy. There's like a flimsiness to like a belief system. And I'm just saying in general, I'm not picking one side versus the other. I just feel like the masses in general, there's a flimsiness to the belief structures and what they stand for and their morals and their convictions, man. It'll just flip based on what the news is telling them, what their social group is telling them, what the new trend is.
Yeah, well, there's also, the people that claim there's no such thing as like a hierarchy. There's an incredible hierarchy of privilege as far as what you can say and who can say. I mean, it's really fun to watch, really, because you'll have someone say something, but then somebody more oppressed trumps them, and so they back off, and it's this hilarious game of whack-a-mole. And so it's like, wow, famous black, seemingly liberal actor can't, he trumps me. I can't say anything. So it's fun to watch because it's the beginning of the end of a civilization once you start categorizing people's oppression. And it's, not to start talking about the millions that have died in past atrocities, but that's how it happened in the Soviet Union with the Gulag slave camps. It was, if you're an oppressor, you go in there, and they ran out of people. So if someone had like one chicken, they'd be like, well, you're a farm owner, so into the slave camp. And that's how that happened. And we're doing the same exact thing right now. And it's fun. It's definitely fun to watch if it doesn't get out of control. But as far as I hate to gossip at all, but it's a public comment that I did another video where I was basically saying I got fired for being white or something like that. And then Jamie commented on that and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure it's really hard for white dudes." And I thought, okay, I think I lost him, which is okay. But also, like, let's take a step back. My childhood hero is Jamie Foxx. He's probably one of the reasons I do impressions, because I saw him play Ray play Ray Charles, one of the most brilliant impressions ever done. I aspire to be like him. I can't get an agent because I'm white, and that's not a guess. And here he is going like, yeah, but white guys have it the best, And so it's like, who would have thought I'd ever have that interaction with one of my childhood heroes? But it's a testament to how out of control it's gotten, and how sad it is that that's even playing a part in Hollywood or casting or any of that stuff. So, anyways, I blocked him and I reported him for hate speech.
Oh my God. When you have a tour coming up?
I'm gonna be going to I'll be in Las Vegas. The Comedy Cellar has a club in Las Vegas, so I'll be there for a week starting March 27th through I think April 2nd. And I'll just be part of a group of 5 comics. So I'll be doing 15 minutes on each show. And then July, I'll be doing a big Southern tour of Texas, Nashville, and maybe Atlanta. So that'll start late, like July 30th. That'll kick off. But right now, Austin, Texas is on sale for July 30th at the Vulcan Gas Company. That's on my website. And then I think Zany's in Nashville should be up there. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
No LA shows, man?
Not as of now. I was out there recently. I went on Dr. Phil to talk about my lawsuit, and they cut the episode.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was me and Candace Owens, and Amala, I hope I'm saying her name right, from Prairie, debating a couple of critical race theory professors. And they played the tape from the manager. I started sobbing. It was an incredible hour of TV. And they cut it. And I had a feeling they would, because the whole thing was about white people that got fired for being white, who had proof and are all pursuing lawsuits. And it was like, yes, it was like,
that's fucking devastating that they cut that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, that was my last time in LA.
Cool, man. Bro, what can I say? Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, do you want to start recording now? I think we got warmed up, so we can start.
Yeah, you could just tell us how amazing our podcast is in a Donald Trump voice, and we can close.
Exactly what I was thinking.
That'd be amazing.
So, if you want to know the truth, right, go to Truth Social. But if you want to know other truths, right, there's more than one truth. There's, like, we call it multi-truths. You know this. You can watch this great podcast called
Here for the Truth.
Here for the Truth. That's right. We grab them by the truth. I see a beautiful woman and I grab her by the truth. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about her vagina, but it's true that women have vaginas.
Oh, amazing, man. Dude, really, thank you so much, bro, for coming on. Thanks for making the time. I wish you nothing but the fucking best, man, with your work.
Thank you.
I'll always be a fan. I love your material, man. And
appreciate it. Yeah, that's if you can just cut out all of my stuff from this and edit that out, that would be great.
Perfect, no doubt.
Whatever you want to keep of what you guys said is perfectly fine.
No, but just thanks for being real, man. Thanks for sharing part of your story.
Yeah,
part of your journey, and
I'll throw out my social medias. Ty the Fish, Ty TY. The Fish is FISCH, because I got that sweet German blood. We were the ones that were gassed. We weren't the the winners of that one. And then TylerFisher.com. I've got my tour dates. And then I'm on Patreon, and then I'll be on Locals probably in the next couple of weeks.
Cool, man. We'll have all that stuff listed in the notes. Everyone who's listening, watching, I mean, go check Tyler out on all his channels. I tend to see most of your stuff on Instagram, and yeah, if you want to piss your pants, support this guy.
That's how I end my Biden impression now. Actually, imagine if I started shitting on the stage and just like, yeah, okay. Anyways,
yeah, man. Also, when you
a boosted shirt, I've got a lot of great merchandise at tylerfischer.com. You boosted, or we've got men or women too, all sorts of fun stuff.
Awesome, dude.
Guys, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, fellas.
Smoking mirrors, I'm seeing through the illusion. Waking up in a time, they think you're in a delusion. Somebody set the alarms, cause they be too busy snoozing. I'm in a DeLorean. Fast forward in evolution to a place where we can share our confusions. Yep, 450 BC, I'm sharing tea with confusion.